Hey guys, I hope you guys can hear me. Go ahead and drop some comments in the chat section if you guys can hear me okay. But I'm going to give everybody a few minutes to jump on and then I'll get started. So what I'll be talking about today is those top overlooked secondary claims. And first I'm going to explain what a secondary claim even is. And then we'll jump into some of the top ones, how you claim it and how you win it. Because there's big difference between filing a claim and winning a claim. So we want to make sure that you guys are getting the best information possible. So let me make sure we are live. I hope you guys can hear me. Awesome. You can hear me loud and clear. Awesome. So first off, what is a secondary claim and why are they so important? So if you did not have medical evidence of a condition while you were in the service, so say you had headaches, but you didn't complain about it because you're like most people. And what do? We just pop a Motrin, a vitamin M, and we carry on about our day. So what we want to do is, now that you know you have that condition, of course, step one for any claim is having a diagnosis. But if you did not have that diagnosis in service, it can be hard to service connect because there's three big things that you need in order to win any claim. And I talk about this on all my lives. The first thing that you need is a diagnosis, because if it's not on paper, the VA is going to say it does not exist. Two is current symptoms. And then that third piece of the puzzle is the hard part, especially if you didn't have it in service or didn't complain about it in service, is proof of the link to your service. So either proof in your military medical records or a way to link it back. So secondaries are the way to link it back if you don't have that proof in your in-service military medical records. So it has to be secondary to an already current service-connected issue. So I'm going to bring up some of those. Hello from South Carolina. Awesome. Yes, if you guys can watch this later if you can't stay on the live the whole time, but I would love to answer some questions live. So what I'll do is kind of go through my spiel and then I'll answer questions as we're going through. But hey, David and Daniel. Hey. Awesome. So some of the top ones that I want to talk about, of course, sleep apnea is kind of a hot topic one because most of us, I say us just as veterans in general, but most of us did not have a diagnosis of sleep apnea in the service. Either we didn't know about it, didn't know what it was, didn't know that we had it. So a lot of people got a sleep study with the VA. After they got out of the service, now they have a CPAP machine. You filed for it and you got not service connected. I hear that a lot. So sleep apnea is most likely secondary to something that you already have. What is the biggest contributing factor to sleep apnea? It's weight gain. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be obese, but the military's definition of being overweight is pretty strict. Most of us know that from height and weight and getting taped and things like that. But weight gain is one of the biggest contributing factors to sleep apnea. So anything that can be a cause of your weight gain is something you can claim sleep apnea secondary to. So let me explain that a little more. So orthopedic issues. Say you're service connected, and again, you have to be service connected for these other issues if you want to file a secondary claim. It's like a building block. You have to have that foundation first of a primary claim, and then you can build secondaries upon that. And you can do secondaries on top of other secondaries. You can keep building upon that. But orthopedic issues. So say you're service connected for both of your knees. Now you can't exercise, you've gained weight. That weight gain has attributed to your sleep apnea. So sleep apnea can be secondary to orthopedic issues like feet, knees, back issues, anything that can cause you to gain weight. There is a link there. There's also sleep apnea can be attributed to medications. So say you're taking a lot of vitamin M, you're taking a lot of ibuprofen, and that's causing you some issues at night. That can be a link there as well as any medication that can cause weight gain. So that's where you can do sleep apnea secondary to mental health claims, whether that's PTSD, depression, anxiety. A lot of those medications for mental health, SSRIs, can cause weight gain. So if your medications from mental health have caused you to gain weight, then you can claim sleep apnea secondary to your mental health claim. So there's ways to do that. But the key for secondary claims, you can't just say, hey, I've got PTSD, I want to claim sleep apnea secondary to it. You need a Nexus statement or a Nexus letter in particular. And what a Nexus letter is a medical provider's professional opinion that your issues, specifically yours, are more likely than not caused or aggravated by your other service-connected issues. So that's that third piece of the puzzle that you're going to need for secondaries. And I really think a Nexus letter is almost the biggest, most important thing for any secondary claim, because that is the link. Just because somebody else's sleep apnea was service-connected because of their PTSD doesn't mean yours automatically will be. If you get a BiPAP machine and not CPAP, does that affect your claim? If you need a machine to sleep, that's going to help your case. Usually sleep apnea is a 50% service-connected issue if you use a machine to sleep. BiPAP, CPAP, both machines are linked to treating sleep apnea. So that's a good thing. I complained of sleep issues, fatigue, headaches, and dizziness in service, and it's documented on my exit physical. My ex, active duty at the time, just sent a buddy letter for in-service sleeping issues. I also have several service-connected orthopedic issues, SSD, and have gained weight. Is it better to file as a primary than if denied, then appeal with supplemental secondary documentation? Sleep apnea, if you did not have the official diagnosis in service, I highly suggest filing it as a secondary, especially if you have other issues that attribute to it. You can show that you had evidence of sleep issues in service, but if you did not have a diagnosis of sleep apnea in service, I have almost never seen it service-connected as a primary. So I highly suggest getting a Nexus and doing a secondary. So is GERD secondary to sleep apnea? That is actually my next topic. So we're going to talk about GERD. So GERD, what is GERD? So GERD is acid reflux, heartburn. Again, it's something a lot of us we pop a Tums and we deal with it. We don't think about, oh, this can be caused by another one of my service-connected issues. So GERD can be service-connected to quite a few things. So it can be secondary to medications. Again, we know medications can mess up your stomach. So it can be related to orthopedic issues. It can be related to a lot of things. Mental health, again, mental health medications can cause those side effects and acid reflux. So can PTSD just in general, and anxiety can attribute to acid reflux, irritable bowel syndrome. Your mental health is linked to a lot of things, actually. So acid reflux, again, it can be secondary to a lot of things. It can be secondary to sleep apnea. It can be secondary to medications. It can be secondary to mental health. So if you have it, again, step one is to get a diagnosis. So if you don't have a diagnosis, you've just been dealing with it, popping Tums like it's candy, make sure you get a diagnosis. And then you want to get that link to your service. You'll want to get a Nexus letter. So why doesn't a Nexus seem to work for primary connection for sleep apnea, especially for older claims from the 60s and 70s when little was known about sleep apnea then? So it's, again, if you did not have a diagnosis of sleep apnea, and a lot of people didn't know it existed until like the 90s. So it is difficult, but if you have something that's already service-connected, Craig, I would try it as a secondary, because sleep apnea can be attributed to a lot of things as a secondary. So I would look into that option for sure. But a Nexus, it can be difficult with physical issues, because if there was not a diagnosis, that's going to be the missing piece of the puzzle, was the diagnosis in service. Was sleep apnea even a diagnosis in the 80s? I don't think they really knew about it until the 90s. So that's where it becomes that gray area. But a Nexus letter as a secondary will fill in that gray area and make it black and white. All right, so GERD. So we'll move on past GERD. And one thing that you can do is, if you know that you have it, you've not been diagnosed, of course, that's step one, but start tracking them. There's actually apps for you to track your symptoms. We'll talk about another app in a minute with migraines, but there's an app for GERD. It's called GERD Log Heartburn Tracker app. And why you want to do that is because GERD and acid reflux can be rated on a sliding scale. So it goes anywhere from 0, 10, 30, or 60. So it is a high value claim if you have severe issues with it. So you want to track how often you're having those attacks, how long it's lasting, if you throw up, things are actually coming up. So you want to track all those symptoms because that can make the difference between a 10% rating and a 60% rating. So you want to be specific. So again, start tracking how often you're getting that reflux, how long it's lasting, all of the details about it, all the ugly details about it. What about long-term painkillers for GERD? Absolutely. Absolutely. Medications are going to cause issues. So absolutely, if you're taking painkillers for a current service-connected issue, that GERD can be service-connected through a Nexus talking about those issues. So GERD log heartburn tracker app. And that's going to lead us into the next one. So migraines are another huge high value claim that can be a secondary claim. So migraines, what are they? Okay, so a lot of us have had migraines or headaches, severe headaches. And again, what do? We deal with it and we don't talk about it. And we don't even think that it's something that we can claim, but you can. So migraines, if you didn't have a diagnosis in service, you're going to need to do it as a secondary claim to something that you're service connected for. So honestly, there's a lot of things that can cause migraines after the fact. So if you have severe tinnitus and that's service connected tinnitus, you can file migraine secondary to tinnitus with a Nexus letter because literature does support a link between tinnitus and migraines. I'm service connected for my migraines and absolutely my tinnitus triggers them. It absolutely does. Now, I had migraines in service, their direct primary service connection, but a lot of people dealt with their headaches and they just thought something they have to live with. It just is what it is. And they don't think about, oh, that's definitely being triggered by the ringing in my ears. Or it can be caused by mental health. It can be caused by anxiety, can trigger migraines. It can be triggered by medications. Again, so there's a lot of ways to link things as secondary claims. Can I claim sinusitis and migraines as secondary to sleep apnea? Has been denied a few occasions. So if you've been denied for something, you definitely need to get a Nexus. Nexus is key, absolutely key. I think it's the most important thing other than the diagnosis itself for any secondary claim, because that is the link to your service. That terminology that more likely than not, or at least as likely as not, is the terminology that you want a provider to provide you with. And stating that your issues in particular, say your migraines are either proximately caused or proximately aggravated by your other current service connected issues. So if you've been denied before, let us know and we can help you get taken care of. How common are migraine headaches? Is it worth filing for it? Absolutely. So migraine headaches can be rated on a sliding scale as well, anywhere from 0 to 50%. So again, how severe they are, maybe you don't think they're that bad, but maybe that means you'll get a 30% rating or 10% rating. But if you have them, if you're suffering with something that you know is related to another service-connected issue, absolutely file for it. Absolutely. Especially some of these that I'm talking about are very high-value claims, so you don't want to leave money on the table. And this is an analogy that I've used before. So if you get a rental car and you turn it in and it's less than in perfect condition, what do? You have to pay for that. Don't be afraid of going for compensation. If you are busted up or having issues because of your service or because of your other service-connected issues, absolutely file for it. It's an easy link to a lot of things. It really is. I'm rated at 10% for headaches. They call them optical headaches caused by my neck issues. I have tried several times for an increase, but always been denied. So if you're getting denied an increase and your symptoms are worse than that 10%, what you want to do is start tracking them. There's an app for the migraines as well. It's called Migraine Buddy. I use it personally. I track all my migraines, frequency, duration, whether I get nauseous, visual changes, if you see spots or floaters when you have headaches, all those things make a big difference. So you want to start tracking that, and you can use that as a grounds for an increase, those personal logs of your headaches. All righty. So again, being specific about your migraines, again, is a big factor because it is a sliding scale. So frequency, how long they're lasting. So frequency and duration are the big things, but visual changes. Are you nauseous? Did you throw up? Are you light sensitive? Are you sound sensitive? Do you have to go lay in a dark, quiet room? If you're having headaches like that and you don't have a diagnosis, that's step one, is get that diagnosis. And then step two is get that Nexus letter going, especially if you have tinnitus, especially if you take a lot of medications for your other service-connected issues. There's ways to link that, and the literature supports it. So I have acid reflux and migraines. I have a service-connected 40% back injury, and I've been denied increase for back. So you're probably capped out on your back at 40%. That's a good rating for your back. But acid reflux, if you're taking a lot of medications for your back, then you absolutely want to take a look at your acid reflux being aggravated by your medications. Now, migraines may be a harder link to your back unless you have other service-connected issues, because I'm not sure of a link between back pain. Neck pain, yes. If you're service-connected for your neck, that can cause migraines. But as far as your back, I'm not sure if there's a link there. But yes, so peripheral neuropathy and radiculopathy. So if you're rated for your back or for your neck and you're having numbness, tingling, burning, shooting pain, any of those things in your extremities. So for your neck, it's usually the upper extremities, tingling, numbness in the hands. For the mid and lower back, it usually causes those issues down your legs. Numbness and tingling in the feet, shooting pains down the back of your legs. So peripheral neuropathy is the numbness and tingling, usually secondary to diabetes. So that's an issue, common, very, very common, but it's usually still necessary to get a nexus to link those two together, that peripheral neuropathy, the numbness and tingling in the extremities due to your diabetes. Now, it can be a very, very high value claim. It can be anywhere from 0 to 70% for peripheral neuropathy because it can affect multiple extremities. If you have issues with both arms and both legs, that adds up really quickly. So that's definitely something you want to look into. If you're just dealing with these issues and you didn't think there was a link, you're just like, oh, my hands go numb or my feet go numb or my back has shooting pains down to my knees, and you're dealing with it, you should absolutely file these as secondaries. Now with radiculopathy, so what that is usually because of nerve impingement. So what that is again, numbness, tingling, burning, or shooting pains, either in the upper extremities or lower extremities, so arms and legs, because of an injury, usually to your back or your neck. So if you're service connected for your neck or your back and you have any of those issues, especially if you've already got the diagnosis, you want to file those secondary to those current service-connected neck and back issues. Now, if you're not already service-connected for your neck and for your back, that's going to be step one, is getting those primary issues connected and then building upon those with the secondaries. But I personally have radiculopathy in both legs. I'm rated 20% for my back, but that's not a cap out. So maybe you're 40% for your back, but if you have that shooting pain down your legs, then you can file radiculopathy. And that's how you build upon your claims that are maybe maxed out, like for your back at 40%. So definitely look into it. They rate things like this per leg. So if you have radiculopathy in both of your legs, that numbness, shooting pain down your legs, you can file for each leg, and those add up quickly, especially with the bilateral factor, which is a topic for another one. But if you guys have questions, send me an email. I've been using Migraine Buddy for 3 months. It's a huge help. Get those apps. Get those apps. They're awesome. So how long should we track migraines prior to considering a claim? So I would start tracking immediately if you're not already tracking. And it's not necessarily a timeline. So you can go ahead and submit just a few weeks and say, hey, this is what I've been dealing with for the last couple of weeks. Continue to do those logs while you're working on your claim. We can get you the Nexus letters. We can start working on that. And the whole time you can keep tracking your migraines. So by the time it's time to claim, you'll have a nice chunk of logs to prove how severe your headaches are. So start now. And as soon as you have, enough evidence, whether that's just the Nexus letter, the logs help. They're not necessary. They're not going to be the make or break, but it makes a difference on the rating percentage. So I would start now for sure. Can one claim migraine secondary to multiple service-connected issues? Yes. Yes, because migraines can be secondary to tinnitus. They can be secondary to TBI. They can be secondary to a lot of things. So you can file it secondary to multiple things. The VA may say it's only connected to one, but the more things that there's a link to in the medical research, the odds of you getting service connected definitely go up. All right. So I want to talk about one more, and it's the biggest secondary claim out there, and that's mental health. So mental health, you can be service connected for issues like depression, secondary to your physical stuff, anxiety, secondary to physical issues. And I'll give you my personal example. So my back is pretty bad. I'm rated 20% right now for my back, but it caused me a lot of issues at work. So professionally, it was causing issues, and it caused me anxiety because I used to work in the ER and in the ICUs, and I was afraid that because my back was hurting so bad, I was missing work. I was afraid I was going to get fired. I was afraid I was going to drop a patient. So I had chronic anxiety about not being able to perform at my job. So anxiety secondary to my back, if you see that link. Same thing with tinnitus. So if your tinnitus is driving you absolutely bonkers, again, at work, it drove me bonkers because I couldn't tell if that beeping was in my ears because of my tinnitus or if my patient's monitor was going off. So I felt a lot of anxiety with that. Migraines, they can cause depression. So say you don't want to go anywhere because you're afraid you're going to get a migraine and be stranded somewhere without your medications. Maybe you can't leave your house because you're just completely afraid that if you're driving and you get a migraine, you're going to crash and kill somebody. So physical issues can absolutely cause mental health symptoms. So there's actually a claim called somatic symptom disorder, which is how your physical issues affect you mentally, socially, and professionally. So some of those examples, if you have anxiety at work because of your physical issues, if you're embarrassed, maybe even about scars can cause depression and want you to recluse. So PTSD is not the only mental health claim out there. You can claim anxiety and depression and somatic symptom disorder secondary to your already service-connected physical issues. So again, most of us, we want to deny our mental health symptoms. We say, I'm fine. We're taught to not talk about our problems, especially mental health. It's had a stigma with it. But if you're suffering with anxiety and depression and missing work and just mentally, socially, and professionally impaired because of your physical issues, you can absolutely file a mental health claim. Again, diagnosis is step one. You do have to have an official diagnosis of a mental health condition, whether that's anxiety, depression, somatic symptom disorder. And then you'll need a Nexus statement to link that to your physical issues. Because otherwise they're going to say, not our fault that you have anxiety. So you have to prove that link. And that's key with secondary. Somebody's going to do a drinking game to this afterwards. Every time she says Nexus, take a drink, and you guys are going to be messed up. But I'm telling you, Nexus letters are key for secondary issues because that is the missing piece of the puzzle. If you didn't have that diagnosis in service and you can't directly link it back to your military active duty time, that Nexus is what's going to do it for you. So that's super important. Super, super important. So what about Gerd and IBS? Would those be rated combined or separate? I've seen them done both ways. I've seen them rated separately. I've seen them rated combined. But the more symptoms that you have, say those medications are causing both. You've got IBS and you've got Gerd. So it's both issues there going on. Those can be considered pyramiding. So I've seen them rated together, but I've also seen them rated separately because they are different areas. One's the upper and one's lower. But you can definitely file for either one of those as secondaries to medication, secondary to mental health, secondary to a lot of things. So anxiety for PTSD as secondary. So mental health, you can only be rated for one mental health condition. But if you file for an increase, say on your PTSD or for your anxiety, whichever one you're rated for, you can talk about how anxiety is all part of that because there's 31 mental health symptoms the VA uses as for rating purposes. And whether it's anxiety, depression, PTSD, somatic symptom disorder, pick the alphabet there, they're all the same symptoms and they're all rated on the same scale, the same criteria. So if you're having anxiety and PTSD, you can file for an increase and just make sure you talk about all of the symptoms that are affecting you. And you can talk about how your physical issues are causing more issues as long as they're service-connected physical issues. All right, I have herniated disc and lumbar and pinched nerve. Can I claim secondary to both my knees already service-connected? So yes, but I would definitely suggest a Nexus letter for that as well, because if your knees are causing you issues and maybe it's affecting the way that you walk, it's affecting your gait, that can absolutely affect your back. If you're compensating because your knees hurt, so you're not lifting with your legs and now you're lifting with your back, it can cause a herniated disc. So there's a lot of ways to link it, but again, you need a medical professional to state that link is there. That's key for secondaries. Can you claim secondary issues to already claim secondary claims? Yes, you can, because things start to snowball. So say, like me, so say my back has caused me anxiety. So now I'm rated for mental health, secondary to my back, but I'm taking medications for my anxiety. If that causes me acid reflux, I can file another secondary on my already secondary anxiety. So that's the way that you can snowball things. And you just have to prove that link. And those three things you need is a diagnosis, current symptoms, and a link to your service. So if you don't have proof of an illness or injury while you were in service, that third piece of the puzzle is going to be a Nexus letter. It's going to be a Nexus letter. Otherwise, they're going to say, oh, you have sleep apnea? Not my fault. Unless you prove that it's related to the medications you're taking for depression, or whether it's related to your weight gain because of your knees. There has to be a way to prove that connection to your service. Otherwise, they're going to say, not my fault, not my fault. And that's their default. So you have to prove everything beyond a reasonable doubt with them. I'm 10% for knee and 50% depression because of life changes. I also have high blood pressure. Can I claim the high blood pressure? High blood pressure can be caused by mental health, and especially medications for mental health. So depending on your specific case, Lee, absolutely. There's a lot of ways to link high blood pressure to other issues. What's the Gerd app again? It's called Gerd Log. Let me pull it up again, make sure I'm not telling you guys wrong. Gerd Log Heartburn Tracker app is the Gerd Tracker app. I was denied OSA with a Nexus letter secondary to PTSD and asthma. So Pete, what is your asthma rating at? Because they may consider respiratory, sleep apnea and asthma are both respiratory. So if you're already capped out on your respiratory claim, again, there's things with pyramiding that may be why they didn't grant it for you. Not necessarily that they don't think there's a connection, but you may be maxed out on respiratory disability. I don't like technology. Would a written journal for Gerd and migraines be acceptable? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You can do handwritten notes. Sometimes that looks even better because if you use black ink one day, purple ink another day, it shows, a continuation of those issues for quite a long time. So if you're not into apps and technology, you can definitely do hard copy notes or just keep notes on your computer. Just make sure whenever you have a migraine or whenever you have an acid reflux attack that you're tracking all that. Thank you, Laura. You're a wealth of knowledge. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have, whether it's about secondaries or primaries, whatever the case may be. You guys can always message me and we'll get you guys on track. But I hope you guys have a good rest of the week. I hope to see you again soon. I hope to see you guys in my inbox with lots of questions, and I'll get back to you guys as soon as I can. But stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you next time.